In 2018, the United States government imposed a 20% tariff on a vast array of Chinese imports. This move was part of a broader strategy to address the trade imbalance between the two nations. This aggressive move marked the beginning of a trade war between the world's two largest economies. The implications of this decision were far-reaching, affecting not just the two countries involved, but the entire global trade network. The Trump administration argued that these tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and intellectual property. They believed that by imposing these tariffs, they could curb the loss of American manufacturing jobs to overseas competitors. They claimed that China was engaging in unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and forced technology transfers. These practices, according to the administration, gave Chinese companies an unfair advantage in the global market. The goal was to force China to make concessions and level the playing field. The hope was that through these tariffs, China would be compelled to change its trade policies and practices. China's response was swift and decisive. They did not take these tariffs lightly and were quick to retaliate. They retaliated with their own tariffs on American goods, targeting industries that were crucial to the U.S. economy. These tariffs targeted key American exports like soybeans, automobiles, and aircraft. By doing so, China aimed to hit the U.S. where it would hurt the most, in sectors that were vital to American economic interests. The message was clear: China would not back down from a fight. They were prepared to endure the economic pain in order to stand their ground. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs escalated tensions and created uncertainty in the global market. Investors and businesses around the world were left in a state of flux, unsure of what the future held. As the trade war intensified, China strategically shifted its trade focus. They began to look for new markets and partners to reduce their reliance on American goods. They began seeking alternative suppliers for the goods they needed. This included countries like Canada, Brazil, and various European nations. Countries like Canada, Brazil, and the European Union became increasingly important trade partners for China. These new alliances helped China to cushion the blow of the American tariffs. This diversification of trade partners allowed China to mitigate the impact of American tariffs. By spreading their trade across multiple countries, they were able to reduce their economic vulnerability. This strategic maneuvering by China had significant consequences for the U.S. economy. American businesses that relied heavily on exports to China found themselves in a precarious position. American businesses, particularly those reliant on exports to China, faced shrinking markets and lost revenue. Farmers, manufacturers, and other industries felt the sting of reduced demand and increased competition. The trade war was no longer a distant threat. It was a harsh reality with real-world repercussions. The economic landscape had shifted, and the effects of this trade conflict were being felt across the globe. The trade war's impact on the U.S. economy was not theoretical, it was immediate and severe. American farmers who had long relied on China as a major export market were hit particularly hard. China's retaliatory tariffs on soybeans, for instance, sent shockwaves through the American agricultural heartland. Manufacturers also felt the sting of the trade war. The tariffs disrupted supply chains and increased the cost of raw materials significantly. This made American-made goods less competitive in both domestic and international markets. The uncertainty surrounding the trade war made it difficult for businesses to plan for the future. The energy sector, once a beacon of American economic strength, was not spared either. China, a major consumer of American energy products like liquefied natural gas, began reducing its reliance on U.S. suppliers. This shift had significant implications for American energy companies that had invested heavily in expanding production to meet Chinese demand. The trade war exposed the interconnectedness of the global economy. It demonstrated that even the world's most powerful economy was not immune to the forces of globalization. The tariffs intended to protect American interests were instead harming the very industries they were meant to help. China, recognizing its vulnerability to American trade pressure, embarked on a strategic initiative to diversify its energy sources. This move was not just a reactionary measure, but a calculated strategy to ensure long-term energy security and economic stability. They sought to reduce their dependence on the United States, particularly for crucial commodities like oil and liquefied natural gas. By doing so, China aimed to shield itself from potential supply disruptions and price volatility that could arise from geopolitical tensions. This diversification strategy was a direct response to the escalating trade war. The trade war had highlighted the risks of over-reliance on a single supplier, prompting China to explore new avenues for securing its energy needs. China turned its attention to other energy-rich nations, forging new partnerships and securing alternative supply routes. This included not only traditional energy sources but also investments in renewable energy and technology. Russia, with its vast oil and gas reserves, emerged as a key player in China's energy strategy. The geographical proximity and existing infrastructure made Russia an attractive partner for China. The two countries strengthened their energy cooperation, signing long-term supply agreements and collaborating on infrastructure projects. These agreements were designed to ensure a stable and continuous flow of energy resources between the two nations. Beyond Russia, China also expanded its energy ties with Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. These partnerships were part of a broader strategy to create a diversified and resilient energy supply network. These nations, rich in natural resources, offered China additional options to meet its growing energy demands. The development of new pipelines and trade routes further solidified these relationships. This diversification strategy was not merely about securing energy supplies, it was about reducing China's reliance on any single supplier, particularly the United States. By spreading its energy sources across multiple countries, China aimed to mitigate risks and enhance its energy security. This shift in the global energy landscape had profound implications for American energy companies. The loss of China as a major market could lead to significant economic repercussions for these companies. They faced the prospect of losing a major market as China sought to reduce its dependence on American energy. This shift forced American companies to rethink their strategies and explore new markets. The trade war had inadvertently accelerated China's pursuit of energy independence, reshaping the geopolitics of energy. This new dynamic in the energy market underscored the interconnectedness of global trade and the far-reaching impacts of geopolitical decisions. Sowing discord, the agricultural landscape transformed. The trade war's impact on the agricultural sector was particularly acute, affecting not just the economy but the very livelihoods of countless farmers. China, once a voracious consumer of American agricultural products, drastically reduced its purchases, leaving a significant void in the market. Soybeans, a staple crop for American farmers, saw a precipitous decline in exports to China, which had been one of the largest markets for this essential crop. This sudden loss of a major market had devastating consequences for American farmers, many of whom had relied heavily on these exports for their income. Prices for soybeans and other agricultural commodities plummeted, leaving many farmers struggling to stay afloat amidst the financial turmoil. The Trump administration attempted to mitigate the damage with subsidies and aid packages, but the long-term impact on the agricultural industry was undeniable, as the market dynamics had shifted dramatically. As China sought alternative suppliers for agricultural products, countries like Brazil and Argentina stepped in to fill the void, seizing the opportunity to expand their own agricultural exports. These nations ramped up their agricultural production to meet Chinese demand, benefiting from the new trade dynamics and increasing their market share. The trade war had reshaped global agricultural trade patterns, with new winners and losers emerging, altering the landscape of international agriculture. The trade war's impact on agriculture extended beyond economic considerations, sparking protests and unrest among farmers who felt abandoned and unsupported. It also strained diplomatic relations between the United States and some of its traditional allies, complicating international negotiations and partnerships. Countries like Canada and Mexico, caught in the crossfire of the trade war, faced pressure to choose sides, navigating a complex web of economic and political interests. The trade war had sown discord in the global agricultural market, with long-term consequences for food security and international relations, leaving a lasting impact on the world stage. Tech titans at odds innovation caught in the crossfire. The trade war between the United States and China extended beyond traditional sectors like agriculture and energy. It also engulfed the technology sector, pitting two technological giants against each other in a fierce battle. The Trump administration viewed China's technological advancements with suspicion, accusing them of intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer. The United States imposed tariffs on Chinese technology products and restricted the export of sensitive technologies to China. These measures were intended to curb China's technological rise and protect American technological dominance. China responded with its own set of policies, promoting indigenous innovation and seeking to reduce its reliance on American technology. The trade war accelerated a technological decoupling between the two countries, with each side seeking to build its own technological ecosystem. The trade war's impact on the technology sector was felt globally and profoundly. Supply chains were disrupted, and companies faced uncertainty as they navigated the complex web of tariffs and trade restrictions. The trade war threatened to fragment the global technology landscape, hindering innovation and collaboration.